Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order and welcome to committee. Welcome to the council and committee meeting of February the 28th of the town of Petawawa. Good evening to everyone. I'll ask, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us this evening? Having seen none. So the first item that you've got on there, I should introduce it just a little bit. It's the presentation of the video launch of the partnership agreement that was put in place just a couple of days ago with the county of Renfrew and Renfrewshire in Scotland. Just by way of some background, about 2-3 years ago, I asked for consideration for this to be put in place to develop a program with Renfrewshire in Scotland. This came out of the 150th anniversary of the county of Renfrew, in which we had the provost from Renfrewshire as our guest, Celia Lawson, along with Bill Lawson, a councillor. And it's taken a little while to get to where we are today with this particular video. It's an opportunity. This is not unusual for 20 agreements, but this is the very first one for Renfrew County. It's not unusual for communities to have a 20 agreement. So long as when they have it in place, that they activate it and take advantage of that particular situation. There's tremendous similarities between Renfrewshire in Scotland and Renfrew County. The very fact that Renfrew County is named after Renfrewshire in Scotland, along with many, many communities that are named after various areas within Scotland. I came within, I suppose, an 8-iron or 9-iron of Renfrewshire myself when I lived in Scotland. And I thought it would be an opportune time to put this into place. There's great opportunities for cultural exchanges, educational exchanges, and economic development exchanges as well. And this will come under the Development and Property Committee of the County of Renfrew, which is chaired by myself. So I'll make sure that it's not a doorstopper and that this will go forward, and we will take advantage of all the opportunities that can be put in place as a result of this. The video you're about to see just gives you a flavor of the similarities and some of the things that are familiar to Canadians, and surprisingly, some of them are in Scotland as well. I think you'll be somewhat surprised when you see minor hockey, which is a big item apparently in Scotland now. Where they play it, I have no idea, because there was no ice rinks when I lived in Scotland, but obviously they must have them as well. This video was put together with the aid of Sean Binky and his equivalent in Renfrewshire in Scotland. And we were privileged to have the now provost of Renfrewshire with us, Lillian Cameron, to say a few words on a video link with Scotland. So we hope that Renfrew County will take advantage of some of the opportunities that this will present to it. So with that, Sean, I think you can play the video, and if there's a need for an interpretation afterwards, because there's a bit of well, let's just say if you need me to interpret what is being said, I'll be glad to do so after the video. Sean, over to you.
Over with the old and back with the new. Lang syne it's aye been the way. Over centuries and seasons for wild geese that flew. Flights of fancy and life and work and play. A one-time diaspora, a one-way lifeblood flow. For many a one-way journey to go, lassie, go. Till flows must ebb and tides return over oceans, bearing talent and skills and the wisdom of generations. Now less concerned with yesterday's, embracing the change is here today. We are noble enough to know what's right and wise enough to choose it. Here's a welcome for tourism and leisure, raising income, well-being and pleasure. Transatlantic neighbours and counterparts, held long over hemispheres and closer to the hearts of our core connected communities, supporting and sustaining our local economies. Our playmakers assisting, linking coast to coast, lighting the lamps in bright municipalities. Every scoop and stroke pursuing shared goals, to champion our mutual prosperity. Floreat arbour, may the tree flourish. Strong branches spread far when nourished. Nurture young shoots and preserve the roots. Grow healthy, build shelter and share the fruits. From muskrat, madawaska, petawawa, from simple, from black and white cards, floating ideas flowing fast as white waters, streaming innovation for industry and arts. Traditions kept going and stories shared, knowing where we came from to tell where we're going. And moving in step and jig time together, Cayley step dance, real time for the future. Together, ensemble, Kaula, the English, the French, the Gaelic, in tune and harmony over the shared language of dance and music. An agreement of partners, twinning values and culture, honouring a shared past, planning a positive future.
So everyone understood that, I hope. Yeah, there you go. That was a poem that was written specifically for that particular video that you just saw. So we hope to take this forward through at the Economic Development Group and begin this cultural exchange at the schools, at the hockey, at industry, tourism, etc., etc. And we've already got people phoning, asking how we can get involved with this. So it's an opportunity, as I say, to network with some folks on the other side of the pond, so to speak, the old sod, and hopefully that it can materialize into something special here in Renfrew County. Okay, that's it. It was signed, and I don't know if anyone's got any comments or understood everything that was said there, but as you can see, there's a lot of similarities between Scotland and Renfrewshire. They sent over some beaver tails, and the report back is they're not as bad as they sound, so which is pretty good, actually. So who knows? Maybe there'll be a beaver tail franchise in Renfrewshire. Who knows? But anyway, that's it. Okay, if there's nothing else, then that's just what's happened at the county in the last little while as far as that initiative is concerned. With that, then we'll go to Public Works. David, your monthly report for February, please.
Yes, Your Worship. So there'll just be a few items I'll just highlight. So under capital projects, I'm happy to report that there are several projects already tender, and some close on March 1st. And I have also a couple projects closing on March 8th. Just to give a little update on the county works. So that's at the middle of the 4th page. So the major project this year for the county that's happening within the town of Petawawa is the rehabilitation of the Petawawa Bridge. So it is a significant project and will affect a lot of the residents. So I've requested that the county make a presentation to council. And so I hope to have that in the next month. The project is to be tendered in March, and the construction is to occur between May to October. And that would see one lane of traffic open at all times with the traffic lights. So they would do one side of the bridge, rehabilitate it while traffic is on the other side, and then vice versa. Just going down to page 5 under asset management. So I note further down under energy management that the reporting for 2020 and 2021 is not complete. So this is part of that asset and energy management coordinator position. So the job description has been approved. The precision and grid review has been completed by the lawyer, but we're awaiting the job to be posted. So just anxiously awaiting that. It's a long time coming, and so we'll hopefully get on to that the next little while. So under operations, so just to highlight that it's been a busy activity for operations over the month of January. And you can see in regards to the plowing and sanding and salting activities and the clearing of the sidewalks. Just wanted to highlight that we had completed 6 days of snow removal. So in parking lots, cutting back snow banks, and along our multi-use pathway. And majority of that was done with internal labor and with internal trucks. So we didn't access any external trucks that we would normally do. And the idea is to do several smaller, basically snow removal operations rather than like one large one. So it makes the work go a little easier. So under water and sewer, again, another busy month for Aqua, keeping our system in compliant. Things to highlight just under work orders, so that they have completed 95% of the work orders for the water. For the sanitary, their target is 85%, but they only completed 69. And the reasoning behind that is there's a lot of work orders, annual work orders that would be due or come into the system in January, but they haven't been scheduled yet. So we'll be catching up with that in the next little while. Under net zero, a lot of work has gone over the past month between our lawyers and our consultants' lawyers, and a lot of documentation has changed hands. There's been a few meetings, and I expect to have a presentation to council in the coming weeks on that. Also, related to the Petawawa net zero, I didn't put it specifically in the report. It would fall under net zero and energy management, but Karen and I had the opportunity to meet with IESO. So that's the Independent Electricity Systems Operator for Ontario, and they manage the electrical system for Ontario. They plan any future needs. So it was a great meeting. They're currently doing the growth review and capacity for the Renfrew area, and they're very interested. So there was a webinar that was done, I think, about a week and a half ago, and then they followed up and wanted to meet specifically with certain communities within the area, and Petawawa was one of them. Very interested in the net zero project because there are some capacity issues with the service coming from Dishusha, and they saw that the net zero project would be an area where it actually could reduce the capacity requirements. And then just energy management. So I highlighted earlier, but just to repeat it, that the 2020 and 2021 reporting for the Conservation Demand Management Plan was not met, and the 2022 deadline is at risk too, due to town resources. So to open it up to any questions.
Thank you, David. Questions? James, sorry, I'm reading something from Matthew. James, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Thanks for the presentation, David. Regarding the IESO, a while back when we were discussing the net zero project, you had mentioned that there was no opportunity for us to sell product back to the grid, that Hydro was not in the business of buying power off of small generators like that, like what we would be. Does IESO factor in on that decision making, or is that an Ontario Hydro thing, or who decides on policy like that?
Yeah, that's actually a province of Ontario decision. So prior to the existing government that came into, there was the program was called net metering. And so what you could do is that if you had a campus in different locations, similar to what we have, that you could actually produce energy, say at the wastewater treatment plant, and supply it to the grid, and then virtually use it, say, at the municipal office. And so they would net each other off. Once the new government came into power, that program was one that they removed. So, it's one thing that we did mention to IESO, that there is some additional capacity available, because we'll be using all of what's produced for the plant, but then there will be some residual that will be left over. And so they were going to take that back, but that's a province of Ontario decision.
Okay. Further on the report. So David, just on County Road 51, how often have you met or are you meeting with the County of Renfrew with regards to the coordination of the traffic flow and what's happening on County Road 51? How often have you been meeting with the county? Is it once a week, once a month, 2 meetings, 3 meetings?
Yeah, it's probably been maybe 2 or 3 meetings over the past 6 months. Mm-hmm. We've exchanged correspondence. Mm-hmm. And so lately, the correspondence has been exchanged in regards to the sequencing and the pedestrian access. And then they had the draft of the design. And so they were requesting comments on that. So, but in regards to specific meetings, minimal. But it was more just exchanging emails back and forth.
Okay.
What I would suggest going forward, though, that once the project gets going, is that we meet at least on maybe a bi-weekly basis, because it is a significant project for the town, and it's going to affect the residents, the businesses, the major industries. So that communication should be clear and often.
Mm-hmm. Just so you'll know, this came up at County Council, this particular initiative. And I asked some questions about this. And one of the questions that I asked is, who would the contact person be with regards to anything that's happening on the boulevard? And it was made clear that Taylor would be the contact, the manager from there. I also indicated, that would be just fine with us. We don't have the staff to field all the questions that may come as a result of that. And that it should be well in advance. I made what the process is going to be on County Road 51. There's going to be signs, according to the county, going to go up there for local traffic only, and they are promoting an alternative route onto the base. And I don't want to get into this one, so I'll talk to you later about this, the other initiative that they're talking about. But I would suggest to you that you maybe contact Taylor and keep in touch with them with regards to the situation as far as traffic flow is concerned on the boulevard, David. Okay. Other questions on the report? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the report, please. Teresa, seconded by James. All in favor? And it is carried. Okay. Thank you, David. Nothing else from you? Okay. With that, we'll go to the planning. Karen, how are you tonight?
Good evening. Very, very well. How are you?
Good.
So just a few highlights for the January report. For the town center subdivision, the townhouse, the 96 units, we are still negotiating somewhat the draft conditions. on that subdivision, although I do expect that those to be in hand fairly soon. The Rowan file, of course, we did have that public meeting. There was no appeal on the zoning bylaw amendment for that property. The appeal period ended January 10th. I have proceeded to advertise the property as surplus lands, and we will be moving towards a council meeting March 21st for the declaration. The Fujisan Sushi agreement has finally been registered, so it's good to get that off our desk. Subway, they're still negotiating. There's some minor details to deal with there, but that should be registered fairly soon. In terms of subdivisions, Hoffman Phase 4, this is the extension of Wilson Avenue. We did just recently receive a pre-servicing agreement that's been submitted. They're anxious to move forward quickly with this subdivision as well. I'm just waiting for the registered plan so that we can proceed with the actual development agreement along with the lifting of part lot control for that subdivision. Portage Landing Phase 4. Actually, we're moving into submission for Phase 5 now. So we have, we're in the midst of preparation of that last phase. You also have a couple of reports before you this evening regarding that subdivision. Several consent applications were submitted to the office in January. You may actually get a couple of those coming before you in reports. They aren't simply straightforward compliant type parcels or severances, so council will have some input on those. Happy to say that we have completed a soft launch of our cloud permit software for the building department. Went very well. And so we are looking forward within the next 2 to 3 weeks to possibly making that live so that the residents will actually be able to log in, obtain, submit their applications completely online. So we're looking forward to that. Also a highlight of today, our new CBO actually started today, and he's going to fit in very, very well. Everybody was very pleased to meet him, and so it was a great day. In terms of pre-consultation, we were doing some work with respect to waterfront road allowance, which you also have a report before you this evening. Lots of people interested in building apartments in Petawawa right now. So lots of information there as well. Christine and myself are working on revisions to our sign bylaw in association with WSP. So they're helping us to update that bylaw, refresh it somewhat. And we were dealing with a lot of issues with respect to portable signs within the town. So we're trying to find a solution so that these portable signs do remain portable and not in fact become permanent. That's sort of a problem that we're dealing with. And those are basically the highlights. I can take any questions.
Thank you. Questions of the report. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Karen, the Hoffman Phase 4, which is at the end of Wilson, were there any discussions with the developer on that, the little trail that goes from the Algonquin Trail to the park that we have on the Petawawa River? Because if I'm correct, their last lot in that development actually swallowed up the little trail that we have connecting the Algonquin Trail to the park. Was there any discussion with them on detouring that little trail around their development?
We did briefly discuss that. Yes, that the trail was actually located on private property. So they're basically what we've provided with respect to that parkland is simply the the access from the parking lot into the actual park and the waterfront area. But there is no connection currently being provided to the Algonquin Trail. They would actually have to go out onto the streets and access it off Portage.
Is there still some land that we own past their development that we could put a connecting trail on?
Well, I mean, we certainly own all of that parkland adjacent to those townhouse units.
Mm-hmm.
I think it came down to whether or not it was actually feasible to create a new trail.
Okay,
It's
thank
certainly
you.
something that that I can try and obtain additional information for you.
Thanks, that'd be great.
James, then Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Karen, the number 2 under pre-consultation, the road allowance leading to water. Is that an unopened road allowance or any details on that?
It's an unopened road allowance, basically adjacent to where, close to where Pine Ridge Park was located. So at the end of that road, we did have discussions with the proponent and indicated that we would not likely, from a planning standpoint, be able to recommend to council moving forward with the closing of that particular road allowance, because people do use that on a regular basis.
Thank you.
You are familiar with that, I guess, James, as to where it was and some of the issues that we had about 9 months ago?
Yes, yeah, and I was
Okay.
just wondering if that was the one.
Yep, that's the one. I asked that this afternoon of Karen, and that's where it is. Yep. Tom, if you're finished, James, Tom.
Karen, the D6 transmission line, was there discussions? Have they, I think there was about 3 different options at one time. Have they narrowed that down now, or whereabouts are we with that one? Is it going to cause some of our residents some pain, or?
Well, actually, they've come forward and they're asking if in fact the town would be willing to allow the transmission lines to run on our lands, where our former landfill site was, Murphy Road and the highway. So we're in the midst of discussing that proposal. I actually have a meeting with them later this week. So we've got a series of questions on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that one pretty closely. And Karen and I had a little chat about that this afternoon as well, in terms of the location of that particular hydro line, Tom. It's a large swath of land that they're looking for, and what does that do to the remaining land, etc. These are questions I'm sure that Karen is going to ask about on behalf of the town.
Thank you.
Okay. Further on the report. Okay, and I need a motion to accept the report, please. Gary, seconded by. Okay, nobody? Tom? More questions? None? Call for the vote. All in favor? And it is carried. Okay. Then we'll go to number 3 on the agenda, PL 522. Karen, you've got a report for us. Pardon me? Number 2?
The building report?
Oh, pardon me. I don't see it. Oh, pardon me. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. Building report.
Just 4 permits,
just 4.
obviously in January, but I can take any questions that anybody has. It was a slow month in terms of building.
Yes, there you go. It's just the beginning of the year.
That's right.
6 last year, 4 this year. Okay. Any questions? I need a motion to accept this, please. James, seconded by Matthew, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Colin, for that. Okay, we'll go to PL 522.
Yes, this is a request for extension of draft approval. Portage Landing subdivision, file 47T12001, part of lot 17, 18, and 19, concession 8. Recommendation that council support the extension of draft approval for the Portage Landing subdivision. This subdivision was originally approved in May of 2014. Obviously, we've had several extensions over the past years. The lapsing date for this one is May 22nd, 2022. This is the final development moving forward. And of course, as you know, we're only able to extend draft approval for up to 12 months. So basically, we're expecting that this will be finishing out this subdivision. They do require a resolution of council and support so that they can obtain that approval through the County of Renfrew.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions of the report? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder to accept the recommendation. Tom, seconded by Matthew. No questions. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. PL 622.
Yes, again, Portage Landing, changing in street names. Recommendation that committee support the renaming of Anthony Street to Durant Street and Monica Street to Dana Street in the Portage Landing subdivision. We received the request on February 16th, 2022. Essentially, the developer is looking to more accurately reflect the ownership group that is in control of the subdivision, and hence looking for these two changes. I did speak to the county in regards to their database, and they certainly don't have any conflict. So we're looking for support from committee.
Okay, thank you. Comments on the report? Kind of straightforward. If you're comfortable with the recommendation, then I need a motion, please. Mover and seconder. Teresa, seconded by Gary. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It is carried. PL 722.
Yes, this is an application that's brought forward Kenneth DeBearmaker, 66 Warpath Trail, Waterfront Road Allowance. Recommendation that committee support in principle the closure of the Shoreline Road Allowance and sale to the adjoining owners in accordance with provisions of bylaw 1384/21 and subject to the parties entering into a conditional agreement of purchase and sale. That staff be directed to commence the process to stop up and close the said portion of road allowance located adjacent to the property known municipally as 66 Warpath Trail, with the subject land being transferred to the adjacent property owner. The owner of the property provided us with a request several weeks ago, in fact. I did provide you with an air photo, a key map, as well as a registered reference plan. Essentially, the waterfront road allowance has been sold on both sides of this property and transferred to the neighbors. And hence the only person that or people that benefit from this waterfront road allowance are the current owners of 66 Warpath Trail. So should council be interested and in support of us moving forward, we would move forward utilizing the policy set out in bylaw 1384/21. You can certainly take any questions that anybody has.
Okay, thank you for that, Karen. I'll open it up for questions. That's a municipal road that goes down to the water, is that Karen?
It's actually the waterfront portion. It's about a 20-meter deep portion of land right adjacent to Black Bay.
So it's a private road that goes down to there off of
No, the 66 Warpath has an existing building on it, and in front, and basically in front at the water's edge is this waterfront road allowance.
Okay.
So that's the portion that we're talking of.
All right, okay. Questions of the report? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the recommendation. Tom, seconded by Matthew. No questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any, it's carried. Thank you. General matters, anything for general matters?
Report, Mr. Mayor.
Yes? Nothing?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Nothing for closed. Motion to adjourn, please. Gary and Tom, all in favor? Then we're out of here. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.